As a child, we all long for a hero. As a society as a whole, we search for that leader that can be our hero. But as we mature and as we grow, it dawned on us that the hero is inside every one of us. And in the world's social media, we all start at zero. And slowly we search deep within ourselves to find who we are. And we have that moment of truth where we embrace that the hero that we've been searching for has been there all along. It is living deep inside of every one of us. And we start embracing that journey and we become that hero that we search for.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode 22 of Zero to Hero. Today, I am super excited for this episode. We are joined by Lisa Peña. She is the founder of Urban Hikes Kansas City, which is essentially combining working out and city tours and history all into one thing, which is really awesome. So let's go ahead and bring them in, Lisa Peña and Mr. Kevin Kwok.
Right.
Hey Lisa, good to have you today for Zero to Hero. And just briefly, tell us a little about your organization before we get started.
All right. Well, hey, Kevin, it's good to be here. So I started my business in 2019. I have a nonprofit background and I was in Peace Corps before I was in nonprofits. And when I was working, I would listen to podcasts about side hustles because there's so many different possible side hustles. And I was listening to this podcast called Side Hustle Nation. And I heard one episode that just resonated with me so much. It was an episode about someone named Alex Kinnan in California who has a business called Urban Hiker San Francisco. And after I heard her episode, I was inspired and I decided this is something that I want to do. I want to lead urban hikes in Kansas City. I love nature, I love hiking, and I love my city. So that was the beginning of my inspiration. And it took me about a year, or a little over a year, to actually have my first hikes with the public where people were paying me. But that's how it all started.
That's awesome. So you just pretty much just started as a side hustle. Are you doing it full time now?
Yeah, I did start as a side hustle, but I am doing it full time. Now, I actually decided in 2020, before everything shut down in 2020, I decided this is what I'm going to do full time. And I did quit my full-time job and went full time with my business. And even though 2020, we're all thinking, oh, that was in the middle of COVID, and it was. It worked out and my business grew at least during the second half of 2020 and has kept going.
And I think for you, the business concept you have is definitely great during COVID in a way because, I think it was quicker for people to be able to get outside and be around people versus, indoors. So, I mean, a lot of people were looking for things to do as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what was happening. And we were able to be socially distanced on my urban hikes, and we would wear masks. And really it was like everything else is closed, but my urban hikes were open and we could be spaced out and be outside.
Yeah, because I remember, during, I would say when pandemic was like at its strongest, like everyone was looking for things to do with the family just to get out,
Exactly.
We're all stuck at home. It's like, driving me crazy. Yep.
Exactly.
So in a couple of sentences, give me an elevator pitch about you, Lisa, and not your business. Who are you?
Right. Yep. Ooh, an elevator pitch about me. Well, as I mentioned, I was in Peace Corps before, and I think that is part of my love for just adventure. And I've loved adventure from the time that I was little and continue to seek out adventure. I also am from Kansas City. I'm from KCK originally, so I'm an original Dot. Also, my just like working, like being part of the Latino community and working with the Latino community is important. I am bilingual. I'm half Hispanic from my mom's side, but I'm married to my husband who's Dominican. So I have like these different cultural influences that I love in my life. And so that's a large part of me. And also my relationship with God is something that's really important for me, that helps to keep me grounded, and something that is just super important. So that's just a little bit about me.
No, that's awesome. So, well, with J29 Creative Group, J29 stands for Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, plans not to harm you, but give you hope in the future. So that's something that is the heartbeat and the core of our who we are as well. So
Awesome.
yep.
Wow.
Kudos. I love when people share their faith openly, especially when, you have all these people watching on LinkedIn, so
Important to me.
Yep. So please tell us about your social media journey. What has it been like?
Social media. So it definitely has been a journey, as you mentioned, journey. I remember when I first started my business, I didn't have an Instagram. And actually, I worked on my Instagram during our shelter in place in 2020 because I had stopped working, and I was like, what am I going to do with my time now that we can't actually be outside with groups? And I started my Instagram account, and that my Instagram account has been something that has been key in growing my business here in Kansas City. Instagram has it's been a really good way for me to showcase the photos from my business and showcase really these different hikes that we have. We have so many different hikes, and we can have these posts about that. And I have grown from 0 followers in 2020 to about I'm over 3,000 followers right now on my Instagram, and so that's huge because I see the results. Also, I've had a Facebook, of course, like before I started my business, but I started a business Facebook, and that is helpful as well. But I really think that my Instagram is the one that is most helpful for me.
And if you don't mind me asking, share with the audience, what kind of content are you sharing on Instagram?
Yeah, on Instagram, I share photos, our hikes. I share videos. I recently shared a video about a day that I had that was from the beginning to the end of my day and everything that I did in the day, from trash cleanup to an urban hike with the United Government from KCK to meeting with friends for a sunset walk and pizza. I also use my social media to promote the hikes that I have. However, what I find is that what is most well received is just me sharing about the hikes that I have. We also sometimes share history on our social media as well.
And those are huge, us being a digital marketing agency. I think it's important for our audience to understand, right? I think a lot of times when you own a business or organization, you overthink it. And social media is all about being social, right? If you take away the word social, it just becomes media. And the days of media is dying, right? The big ad agencies, billboards, ads. Just be yourself. Don't overcomplicate it. If you rent bikes, right? Stop saying, hey, here's our special on bikes, whatever, rental. Instead, showcase what you can do on a bike, because the viewers want to see themselves on that bike doing cool things, So take them along this journey, tell your story. And Lisa, I know you're doing a good job of doing that. And she's just being herself. She's not trying to just push like, hey, raise money for urban hikes. Hey, pay to hike with us. She's just showing the day in her life. Here's Lisa out and about and sharing what she knows.
It's so true. And thanks for sharing about that, because that's what I mentioned. Like, most people I don't get very many likes. I don't get as much engagement with the posts that I have that are like, we have an urban hike on this day. However, I post about the urban hike and how cool it was. And then I see the bookings happen after that.
Yep. So keep that in mind, Like, I think there's so much gurus out there, right? Consultants and coaches on social media. And it's always that shiny object syndrome, right? They want you to buy that shiny object. But the truth is, social media is technically free and it's simple, right? It's just, hey, showcase, document, Be yourself. Yep.
Yeah. Another thing that I just thought of that goes along with my social media journey is how social media has been really neat just to share about others. So I will see things that are really cool, like cool events coming up in Kansas City, and I'm able to share about that. And I share on my stories, and I try to be really proactive about sharing cool things that are happening in Kansas City just to help to get the word out. And I feel like that's been reciprocated to me as well. So that's something almost like this digital world of networking or digital world of sharing that has been really key for me. And I'm so happy to do it because I'm happy to get the word out about other events and really cool things happening in Kansas City.
That's awesome. So every superhero has a defining moment. What is yours when it comes to life and career?
A defining moment. I've had just a this is a tough one. Good question. This I would say I've had a few defining moments when I literally get a feeling in my stomach that tells me I have to do this. But I've had a few. I think that I've had two of those. I remember the first one was when I was in college in undergrad, and I was thinking, wow, I am adventurous. I actually was in a past relationship, and we broke up because all I wanted to do was live in other countries and explore and adventure. And my boyfriend in college wasn't into that. And so we broke up. And I remember I was like, well, we broke up, so I better do something and actually explore and have an adventure. So I remember I went to the Peace Corps website, and then I got so into all the possibilities with Peace Corps. And I really felt this feeling in my stomach, like literally in my stomach, that was like, I have to do this. I have to work as hard as I can so that I can get into Peace Corps and do this. And I did. It took me a while. The process is a long process. It's like a year-long process to get accepted into Peace Corps. At least it was at that time. But I did it, and that was a time that, I mean, Peace Corps really changed my life, and that was a really good experience for me. The second defining moment, I believe, was when I heard that podcast and was totally inspired to have a business.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So those two.
That's great. So when it comes to being a hero, what do you see as attributes of a hero?
Heroes, first of all, have to look out for others. When we think about all this superheroes, they are like, what's going on? How can I help in this way? What can I change? What can I do? So I think that really being aware of others is key. You can't be a hero just in your own box, only aware about your own needs. So really looking out for the needs of others is really important as a hero. I would say also taking risks. Heroes completely take risks. If you think about what heroes do, and I feel like taking risks is huge for heroes. Additionally, I would say taking risks. I mean, those are the two things that I think are really important to for heroes in general.
That's awesome. So during your time in Peace Corps, share a little about the things that, the organization actually does that's heroic.
Wow. Yeah, Peace Corps, some of the Peace Corps sends volunteers to other countries to really live with the people in the situation that the people live in. So for an example, I can talk from my experience. I lived in a rural community where there was water, but there wasn't, like I had a latrine in my home, and it's really a lot more primitive conditions a lot of times, not all of the times. And the thing with Peace Corps, though, is that these volunteers that are like bright-eyed volunteers with new ideas come and learn about the culture and then work with those in the community to work on specific projects. And then they try to like work hard for it to be sustainable. So it's not just let me come and let me solve your problems. It's really working along with the people in the different communities around the world. And that's what's heroic about it, because it's really taking into account the needs of the community. So as I mentioned before, you can't be a hero and just be stuck in your own little box. And then working hard to understand those needs and going about it in a culturally appropriate way. And then, working on sustainable projects. So I would say that's totally heroic, because after the volunteers leave, hopefully people have been changed, or the community has been changed in different ways.
No, and I think you brought up a few key points, right? Me being myself, I'm an immigrant. I wasn't born here. So, but I think being culturally sensitive, and then also, it's you integrating into their culture, not trying to change the culture, right? I think a lot of times, no matter if it's mission field or volunteer work, as an American, we go in there and we expect people to change into our ways. But you're talking about a lot of other countries, right? It's hundreds of years of culture built into their system. You're not going to go change someone overnight or in 30 days or even 6 months, right? It's integrating into their culture and understanding them. And then also, are you integrating a sustainable model? If once you leave, it's not sustainable, then what's the point of going there in the first place? That's how I see it. But
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
But I see so many, different organizations, and it's good to hear, that the Peace Corps, you guys are integrating into their culture, and then you're not looking to change them, but also how do we create something that's sustainable so when we get out or leave, it continues, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. So if you had to pick a superhero that relates best to you, who would that be and why?
Superhero that relates best to me. All right. So I'm going to create, I would like to share a superhero that actually it's not a Marvel superhero. It's not a movie superhero, a comic book superhero, but there's an artist named Madman Art who always paints superheroes. However, he paints superheroes that he creates in his mind. And
so it's Madman Art?
Yes, Madman Art. He's from Phoenix, and he has painted some superheroes in Kansas City. So I think that on Instagram he's if you look up Madman Art, I think you can find it on Instagram. All right, and you can for sure find it on Instagram. And I would say, so there is this mural that he has that is in a corner in Kansas City underneath a bridge. And it's this woman that is really facing forward, and she has these lasers almost coming from her eyes that are going forward. But she's not placed in a prominent place. Really, you see her if you're walking on this pedestrian bridge looking down, and I could give the exact location. It's around Broadway and Southwest Boulevard, more or less. But she's looking forward and laser focused. And I would say that I would relate to her specifically because she is laser focused on going forward. The rays from her eyes are so straight going forward that you're like, nothing is going to get in her way. And even if it does, she's going to continue to go forward, even if she has to pivot or adjust. And I feel like that's the way I am. Like, I know sometimes things get in my way, but I keep going forward. And I would say that I relate to her specifically.
That's awesome. So tell me, what is the most unique hike a story that you can tell us that you've done in the city?
Ooh. When you say the most unique hike, do you mean what is the hike that we offer that is the most unique, or the most unique thing that has ever happened on a hike?
I think the most unique thing that's ever happened on a hike.
Okay. The most unique thing that has ever happened on a hike is, okay, so I'm going to share about what happens inside people when they come on the hikes. And they might feel like it's unique, but it happens a lot of the times on my hikes. Most of my hikes are mainly locals who come on my urban hikes. And on my urban hikes, they all the time say, I never knew that this was here. So for them, the hikes are creating an extremely unique experience for them. And they say that about multiple things, multiple places that we go, like Observation Park that is at the top of a hill in the west side, or the Wyandotte Burial Ground that is in downtown KCK. And we talk about the Conley sisters who literally saved the burial ground from being developed. Some of the alleyways that we go through and the art that we share about in those alleyways, those are the places that people actually probably have some really unique experiences, because they always say, wow, I had no idea this was here. So I would say that's, even though that happens a lot, but people are sharing these or experiencing these unique experiences.
That's awesome. I mean, I've walked a lot of alleyways because as a digital agency, I used to be the guy that walked around the city because my videographer would follow me around pre-COVID, and we would literally walk around. He'll send me to all these random places, from Gladstone to Liberty to North Kansas City, like places I've never been, and he wants to shoot me, talk about marketing stuff. And so I was known, people used to, on our YouTube page, would go, Kevin, I never knew this place is there. And I was like, I didn't either.
Isn't that such a cool feeling?
Yeah.
But to really get to share it, there is a place that is along the Riverfront Heritage Trail that I absolutely love to share. And it's specifically a sculpture park that has sculptures of an enslaved family that escaped to freedom. And it is in the West Bottoms, and probably 98% of the people that have gone with us on our urban hikes have never been there before. And just talking about the history of slavery in Kansas City, and then seeing these metal sculptures that have been created just for that, surrounded by native flowers, is really moving.
No, I think what's really cool is, like, you understand the history, right? With me, I just randomly did a video in these places, and I have no idea the story behind it. I'm probably stepping on the burial grounds, and I have no idea what,
Yeah, we really work hard to research the history, and I think that's why we have such a good product, because when we're on these tours, we're not just taking them to the cool, taking people to cool places. Like we've done a lot of research on the history, and it is, wow, the history, so many layers of interesting history in Kansas City.
That's so cool. And I think, just being a little Midwest, city, there's just so much in Kansas City that you just don't know, right? Like for me, I was telling Gino, like, I just don't go North Kansas City that much, right? So like, there's just, just him being part of our company, I'm learning about, the North KC, there's all these unique places, right? And it's so neat. So what's the best way for people to connect with you or follow you?
We have a website, urbanhikeskc.com. Also, Instagram our handle is Urban Hikes KC. Facebook is also the same handle, Urban Hikes KC. So if you can just remember Urban Hikes KC and Google that, you can find our social pages and our website. We also have a newsletter. If you go to our website, urbanhikeskc.com, there is a big button that says sign up for our newsletter. Our newsletter is a monthly newsletter where we highlight our hikes that are coming up. We also highlight hikes that we've had in the past. That's a really good way to stay connected and to keep urban hikes on your mind.
Well, we appreciate having you. And what's one thing you can recommend, like a value point you can give to our audience?
I would say to explore the Riverfront Heritage Trail. The
Okay.
Riverfront Heritage Trail is a 15-mile trail that goes from Kansas City, Kansas to Kansas City, Missouri. It's not a complete trail where you can just mindlessly follow it. You have to actually look at a map and figure out where you're going to go because it's kind of divided by neighborhoods. But it's peppered with extremely good artwork that matches the community that it's in. And there's some really good views. Most people know the Riverfront Heritage Trail is a Berkeley riverfront, but there's so many aspects of it. And I recommend taking a morning either to bike it, which takes about 2 to 3 hours, or just with time, check out little, what segments at a time, because it is a gem in Kansas City.
Well, we appreciate your time and thanks for hopping on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure.